Oh my goodness, how terrible is that photo? Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to day 5 of this mini Christmas OT series. Today, it's been quite some time, but today we are going to continue with my OT school series that I started back, I think this past summer, so it's been quite a while. So if you haven't seen it, I made a video talking about how I got into occupational therapy school, and today we're going to talk about my first day of OT school. I'm going to try and recall as much as possible. I started occupational therapy school at Texas Women's University in the fall of 2013. So at the time, I was 24, about to turn 25. We started in August. We had a cohort of 45 students. We had 3 males in our group of 45, and we were broken up into 3 separate cohorts of 15. And so that was kind of the group that you were in. Schedule-wise, they had kind of like this block schedule, and that's who you took your labs with. We would meet as a full cohort for some classes, but then the individual labs, we had smaller classes for that. So just to give you a little bit of context there. So I remember the very first day, which was really just an orientation. I remember walking into, what was it, room 322? It was on the 3rd floor. I don't remember what we called. Oh, the multi-purpose room. The multi-purpose room. We met in the multi-purpose room, and everyone had to sit awkwardly at a table. I believe they had the tables sectioned kind of like they do in elementary school, where you're forced to like sit looking at each other and not rows of people. And obviously I was probably very nervous. I mean, there is some relief because you're in OT school, right? You don't have to worry about that. But you don't really know anyone. If you did watch the first video though, I did make a friend on the day that I conducted, or on the day that I completed my interview, and I saw her that day, and it turns out we were both accepted. I didn't know, I believe, until that day that I saw her at orientation, and so we immediately linked up because she was one of the only other people that I recognized and that had actually spoken to in depth at the interview process. So I remember linking up with her, and the only other person, and I don't know if you're going to be watching this, but the only person I vividly remember meeting is Jared. So if you're watching this, Jared, I don't know why. I feel like you were dressed very professional, and I don't know why that stuck in my mind. So obviously the first day is just really orientation. We're getting our schedules. They're taking us on a tour to show us where all the classrooms are. We are getting our IDs made, which I have here. Here it is, in all its glory. Look at me. Oh my goodness, how terrible is that photo? My hair was pretty dark though. And I remember this shirt. I don't know if y'all associate significant life events with clothing, but I do, and I remember the shirt that I was wearing. I had forgotten about it until I saw this photo. I don't think I have it anymore, but it was a green shirt. It was probably the nicest shirt that I owned. You know, I thought I wanted to look good that day. I wanted to impress everybody. So we had our IDs made that day, and I found a couple of things in my handy dandy box here. So there's one paper in here that I deemed worthy of keeping. And I doubt it matters, but I guess I'll cover up my ID number. I don't know if you just saw it on there, but this was, I guess, a paper that was given to me on that very first day. It has my ID number, information about student loans, how to file my taxes and FAFSAs, kind of all. It has Karen's phone number on there. I guess I needed to talk to Karen. So this makes me think of going to the like financial aid office on the first floor and doing some sort of paperwork that day as well. I remember being in there with Carla. So Carla, if you're watching this, I remember being there with you. So that was just the orientation day. The real first day of OT school was the first day of classes, right? So that very first semester, that first day, we had 5 classes. Our first class was called Foundations, and that is a class that we basically learned about the foundational historical aspects of occupational therapy, more focused on principles and the OT theories that are used to support our practice. And that was the very first class with Dr. Borsch. I will never forget, we all had to go around the classroom and say our name, something interesting about us, and then we had to say what we would take with us to a deserted island, I think. Maybe what 3 things we would take. That was the icebreaker that we did. Not really sure why, but I do remember that. We also had neuro, so we had neuro with Dr. Neville. And I remember that class because she told us that it was going to be a reverse classroom where, you know, you have to read and prepare before, and then she's going to ask questions, and basically the students are kind of the teachers instead of her teaching, which I always thought that was a cop-out for actually having to develop a lecture. Supposedly it has research behind it that students learn better with the reverse classroom. I remember being so nervous. Oh, a reverse classroom, what does that mean? We also had what we called our movement in context. That was more of our anatomy and physiology based lab with either Miss Wise or Dr. Wise, I don't recall. So we had that lab, and I remember thinking, I should really review my anatomical structures because I haven't looked at those in a while. I think she handed us a paper with like bony prominences and different bony structures, and we were just supposed to label them from memory. And that's when I was like, okay, probably should know these a little bit better. And then the final class that we had that day was what we called persons, tools, and objects. I really, at this point, I'm not going to know how to explain that class to you. It was probably one of the most interesting classes I've ever taken. Dr. Fletcher, I love you. You're great. You were such a unique individual. I don't know how to describe what happened in that class, but I will say I had some of the most important bonding experiences with my cohorts in that class. I absolutely loved everyone in my first cohort. I think the relationships that we built that first semester carried through the rest of OT school. And, you know, a few of those friendships still to today. I think I got lucky in being in that cohort. So I think that very first day, this was the last class of the day, we had to make this little creature. Again, this is going to sound so bizarre, and you're like, what? This is what you did in grad school? But we had to make this little model out of clay, and it was like an animal, but it was supposed to represent you, and I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. I think I actually have a photo of my little clay formation, and if I can find it, I will pop it up here on the screen, and you'll see a cute little baby face Arwen, so young and naive. Again, don't ask me what this represents, because I don't recall And I remember thinking at the time, this is so weird, and I still look back on it thinking it was really weird. We did some really strange things in that class. I will definitely be able to show you some of the artwork that I made in that class going forward in the series. So I probably was extremely stressed and nervous that day. But I feel like looking back, I only really have positive experiences and positive memories from that day. All fun things, you know, the first week and the first day are always fun. And then the real panic sets in on your studying and cramming in as much information as possible. So there you have it. That was my first day at occupational therapy school at Texas Women's University. If you have any weird or embarrassing stories, you know, leave them in the comments. I didn't have anything weird other than a pimple on the first day. So if you've got any fun stories, I'm sure we would all love to hear about them. Or if we were about to start OT school, I know some schools maybe start in January, I'm not sure. Just know it's okay to be nervous. It's okay if you don't know all your anatomical structures. You will learn them again. Just take that time really before you start your first semester. Just take that time to relax. You know, it's going to be one of the last times you can do that. So don't worry about studying. Don't panic. You'll learn what you need to in school. Again, I'm going to continue this series. The next video will be me talking about the first semester of OT school, and really going in depth on what I thought was good and not so good, going in depth into what I learned, what I think you may or may not need to focus on in specific areas, hopefully give y'all some guidance and really what to focus on when you're in school, because sometimes you learn stuff that you really aren't going to use. So definitely be on the lookout. I'll try and get that one up sooner rather than later. But thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.